Hello, and welcome to today's episode. If you've already heard the intro to the Proverbs, then just skip ahead about 8 minutes or so. Otherwise, the Bible is referred to as the living Word of God. It isn't a book that is meant simply to be read. It is a perspective-altering substance that is meant to be ingested and absorbed into you. And when it becomes a part of you, it changes you. And that is exactly what it is supposed to do. A proverb is an illustrated piece of wisdom. But the funny thing about wisdom is that it can seem so obvious that it is easy to believe that it didn't actually need to be said at all. That is only because you have already been exposed to it by that point. If you just stop and look around at the people who haven't heard it yet, it doesn't exactly seem obvious to them. That is the impressive nature of wisdom. Like a brilliant piece of music, you sense where it is going. But that doesn't actually mean that you could have composed it. Its genius is in allowing the recipient to organically feel as though this amazing thing originated within them, kind of like the movie Inception. This is my own translated paraphrase of the Proverbs, which were originally written by Solomon. And just to quickly summarize, the focus of a translation is on the detailed accuracy of each individual word. But sometimes the broader picture is not conveyed very clearly as a result. The focus of a paraphrase is on painting that big picture, but it often loses the accuracy of the finer details. Both of these are useful as long as you understand which is which and what the disadvantages to each approach are. So it should be noted that any paraphrase is an individual's interpretation of the underlying idea. So a paraphrase is a lot more subjective than a translation is, and that makes it much more susceptible to interpretations that are way off the mark of the original intent. That is why I recommend at least using both an accurate translation, like the New American Standard, and a responsible paraphrase. But I would be leaving you exposed if I didn't warn you to beware of the irresponsible paraphrases out there, the ones that masquerade as the Word of God, with subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, differences to what is actually being said. One of Satan's favorite tricks in the Bible when it comes to weaponizing Scripture, ironically enough. To provide a brief example for you, if I were to read a verse from the Psalms that described the kind of daughter that everyone would hope for as being a strong, beautifully carved, polished pillar that holds up a palace temple, but the paraphrase told you that an admirable daughter is actually like a wildflower in the fields. That is not a paraphrase. That is making up your own ideas and selling them as the Word of God, even though that is not what He said. Likewise, if I read a verse to you that described godly people taking a sword into their hand to execute justice in the land of ancient Israel, and the paraphrase tells you that those godly people did a sword dance to performatively demonstrate justice. That is not what the real text says. That is a very different rewrite, and one that is no longer being honest with its readers. If another passage describes someone being beaten up, specifically being punched in the mouth, and a paraphrase says that he was gagged, Those are not actually the same thing. Just ask anyone who has ever been beaten up. That is not a paraphrase. That is someone overstepping and arrogantly trying to polish up God's embarrassing edges for him in order to make him as presentable as their beliefs are. Once anyone feels entitled to do that with the Word of God, they are actually just writing the word of Billy Bob, while also hijacking some undue legitimacy for their own ideas by calling their own ideas the Word of God, which comes across as being much more impressive than the truth about their own very human words. But impressive sounding or not, that is no more honest than Hannibal Lecter wearing around the security guard's face. Now, to be entirely upfront and responsible with you, having already worked through the Psalms, you should know that my method through the first half of that book was a strict paraphrase. It was based entirely on compiling other English translations and paraphrases and interpreting them together as best I could. And as a result, there were places where I got way off the mark. By the third quarter of the Psalms, I was looking at some of the main words in the original Hebrew and continuing to heavily paraphrase the rest. By the last quarter of that book, I was translating all of the words and then paraphrasing what I had found as honestly as I could, based on the truest translation that I could create from my understanding of the original Hebrew words. But the final point that I want to make clear is that everything loses something in translation. You often have to choose between picking a word that overlaps more than any other single word would, while sacrificing the rest of the picture, or you end up with an extremely wordy translation that doesn't flow as well as it does in the original. That trade-off is clearly not for everyone. But the truth is that there are already so many paraphrases out there for the people who want the filtered, boiled-down, concentrated version of the Bible that it doesn't make sense for me to choose that as my priority here. And I am not denying that concise simplicity has amazing utility. It certainly does. And if that is what you are looking for right now, then there are already several versions out there to suit your preferred purpose in this moment. For the other people who want a deeper dive and a wider perspective to draw from as they try to understand the scriptures more fully, some amount of crisp directness will have to be sacrificed in exchange for seeing the broader web of context. But hopefully, this attempt to contribute something different to the mix, however wordy, will provide an additional tool to the existing ones and add another dimension to the way that you experience these amazing texts. Proverbs 3, Part B, verses 13 through 26. The person who finds and attains wisdom is so enviable, wisdom being a questioning curiosity that results in practical, constructive applications, ones that form the basis of skillful living. Whoever possesses that skill is so enviable, as is the man who draws up discernment and produces insightful analysis in separating things and distinguishing between them. Because her exchange rate is better, more beneficial, more pleasant, life-giving, and exquisitely functional than the entire harvest of profits that pale silver produces, and her multiplying dividends are better than those of the purest of gold, the kind that has been refined until it shimmers as brightly as it possibly can. Discriminating wisdom still yields an even higher interest rate than that, She is more precious than rubies and pearls, and whatever you could desire, anything that you long for or value, your source of pleasure, whatever you take delight in, all of those things. Nothing holds a candle to her. Nothing even compares. None of them are her equal. Extended time is in her active primary hand, and in her other hand are prosperous riches and the weighty recognition that comes from a respect that has substance to it. Her conduct and paths, her journeys and outcomes are beautifully pleasant ones, and all of her well-trod tracks are shalom, a state of being where nothing is broken and nothing is missing, an immense, intense, and overflowing peace, a stable and reliable safety, a comprehensive harmony, stoic security, true prosperity, and a profound depth of well-being and wholeness. To those who seize hold of her hard and firmly in the way that is bold and prevailing, she is a tree that bears life, a multifaceted, vibrant aliveness that is full of vitality, and one that you can build with. She is an enviable blessing of joy and contentment to all who sustain her, to all who continue to hold on to her firmly and maintain that grip. Yahweh founded the earth. He laid its foundations and built it by the skillful application of his own curious exploration of possibilities. In his discerning ability to distinguish and to separate, he established the heavenly heights. With his intimate experience, the depths of the primal abyss burst open and were separated, and the wispy clouds of dust in the sky distill and drip down dew. My son, treasure and protect the clarity of practical constructiveness, helpful insight, a sound, functional, and working wisdom that is known as common sense, one that produces successful outcomes as well as survival, and protectively treasure discretion, the ability to shrewdly plan with foresight and with purpose. Do not let them leave, stray, deviate from, or abandon your own perception. Do not lose sight of them or let them evade your focus, your mind's eye. That way, their existence will enliven your entire primal being. They will animate all the levels of your being with aliveness and generously adorn your throat with graceful beauty and attractive charm, a beauty and charm that results in generous goodwill from those who see it and are drawn to it. Then you will travel on your way securely, in the kind of reliable safety that you can be confident in as being certain. Your conduct, journey, lifestyle, and outcomes will all be secure ones, and your feet under you will not break or stumble and fall. When you lie down or lie with, and either way you are vulnerable, you will not be afraid, full of dread, threatened, alarmed, or paralyzed with trembling awe. No, when you choose to rest, your sleep, your nightly restorative rest, will be sweet and pleasant. Don't be paralyzed with dread or fear in the face of sudden terror and instant unexpected panic, or be paralyzed with dread over the catastrophic storm of devastation when it arrives after having been brought about by the wicked and their hostile crimes. The wicked being those who reject elevated integrity, exemplifying self-centeredness, injustice, willful low aims, and a warped conscience, as they revolt against God in their inability to learn. But don't be afraid, because Yahweh, the existing of all existence, will be there at your side to confidently rely on in a way that defies rationale. And He will keep your foot from being snared and caught. He is the guard watching over you to protect you from being seized and captured. He will not allow you to fall under someone else's control. I pray that whatever voice God might choose to give me in this world, He would also give me the words that I should use it for. These words have meaning for me, and if they had some meaning for you as well, then I am truly grateful that we have both been given a gift from above and from each other. Have a good day out there, my friends.